It's time for another Markz macro play. I want this series to be a little bit more timeless than the blame games, so I'm going to talk more about the general strengths of counter-ganking using examples from this past weekend's matches in the quarterfinals between EDG and ROX. I define counter-ganking as when one jungler predicts where the other jungler wants to gank and joins that fight in an attempt to punish that opponent's gank attempt. One of the biggest strengths about counter-ganking is that as long as you aren't sitting on an enemy ward or something, it's usually a pretty low commitment play to go for. If you have played fighting games before, think of it kind of like option coverage, which means that you're not actually attacking the enemy as much as removing their available options. In the first example, Peanut finishes his clear on the top side and instead of just recalling the jungle, ends up walking in lane behind Smeb before prepping his recall. At this point in the game, ROX doesn't know where Olaf is, and while the Jace does have some ward coverage, he's still extended in the long lane where he can get trained down by Olaf and Rumble. Due to the other lane's positions on the map, this makes top the most obvious gank for EDG to go for, and as such, Peanut starts prepping his recall behind Smeb to protect him while he pushes in the top lane, so in case that gank does come, he should be able to turn it. As it turns out, Olaf ends up showing on the bot side of the map on the Scuttle Crab, so Peanut can freely complete his recall and get back onto the map. This is on the low end of the rewards for the risk-reward spectrum. Peanut is able to cover his top laner from a potential gank while also being able to get his recall off and not giving away any information about where he is. You've seen the low end of the risk-reward spectrum, well, it's time to take a look at the high end. When a counter gank goes well, it can be absolutely game deciding. In Game 4, EDG ganked ROX's bot lane and forced out a ton of summoners while leaving both lanes pretty low. With Lee Sin still having his flash and Karma's flash being down, a repeat gank is almost a guaranteed kill. Knowing that this is the most obvious play for EDG to go for, Peanut runs straight down bottom lane and sits behind his duo lane. Gorilla then walks up to clear a ward in an attempt to bait the gank from EDG. EDG bites and tries to engage onto the Karma, but Peanut is there to obliterate this gank attempt. This ends up breaking the game and ultimately the series open as the play ends up a 4-for-1 for ROX. EDG had a couple minute tells on the gank attempt beyond just the summoner circumstance. The fact that EDG's bot lane didn't want to just reset despite being super low, as well as the way that Rumble was positioning around topside, seemingly looking for a safe place to TP from, slightly gave away the plan that EDG had. Peanut had been fishing for these kind of counter ganks during the series and managed to hit a home run here. The power of counter ganks actually translates really well from competitive play to solo queue. It can be harder to track the minute tells, but as long as you're always thinking about the most obvious gank attempt for the enemy jungler and positioning in a way to counter it, you can probably get a couple of these off. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next week. If you like this show, cool, me too. Let me know if there are any topics you want me to cover in the pro spectrum in the comments below.